My name is Hannah, and this is my beauty budget. If you are over there saying to yourself, that must be the editorial blouse on which Hannah spent her entire September budget, that simply cannot be anything other than the editorial blouse on which Hannah spent her entire September budget, then my friend, you are correct. This is it. And I won't say anything really about it now except for that it is by the designer Ulla Johnson. I got it from eBay, secondhand, and I think it's no longer, I mean, I know that it isn't. I know you can't buy it new now. It's something from a past season, and I don't think there's another one available right now on the secondhand market, although one might become available, as always happens. But I do think that Ulla Johnson makes this design in different fabrics in different seasons. It's called the Cassie blouse. So if I can find it, I'll link it below, but that's not really the point. This is the thing that I bought myself with my budget this month, and the reason that I'm wearing it in this video is that I want almost everything that I'm going to talk about today. The new releases are coming thick and fast, and they're gripping me by my heartstrings, but I wouldn't trade this for any of them. So I was like, I'm gonna put it on, and it'll be a constant reminder to myself while I'm filming this that I already made my decision. Even though I made it before I saw many of these new releases, I made it. I'm happy with it, and it will also be a visual reminder to you guys that budgeting for beauty is about choices, and there's this quality over quantity value that I'm trying to bring into my life. That means seeing and wanting but not buying a lot of beautiful things, because in order to value quality over quantity, and in order to be able to acquire fewer nicer things, or really nice things, like really nice things without breaking the bank, you have to choose not to acquire a whole bunch of other really beautiful, nice things. So this couldn't be a better video in which to reveal this one most few and most nice thing that I've purchased so far this year, which is like an awkward and totally ungrammatical way of saying that this is the thing that I've purchased this year that costs the most, and this is the month of the year in which I've purchased the fewest things, because it was pretty much just one major thing that I purchased with most of my budget this month. I hope that that's clear, and if you think it's hideous, I don't care. I love it so much. It's exactly like something I would have rented from Runway. And that's what I was after. I wanted to acquire at least one incredibly dramatic, totally out there piece of clothing that's the kind of thing that I would only have ever rented from Rent the Runway back when I had that 1-month subscription, and formerly not the kind of thing I would have managed to budget for buying, but I managed to budget for buying it, and I'm literally over the moon. But the video is about it's not about this, it's about new releases, and I will be going into this choice at length in my video at the end of the month about how I spent my September budget. I'm going to talk about all of the factors, because I did consider everything about this top quite carefully before I sprung for it. Let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. Is it just me, or is everyone releasing a grungy rainbow? Like Natasha Denona released a grungy rainbow, Miss Fame released a grungy rainbow, KathleenLights X ColourPop grungy rainbow. Everybody's on the grungy rainbow train, of which I am literally the conductor. Hello. Choo-choo. I feel like there are clear trends emerging in the releases, which are essentially the holiday releases. I feel like that's why everything's kind of going off the chain right now. That's why I like everything right now, because deep, rich, sparkly, kind of glamorous, sultry, like corner of a dark, smoky room in a 1920s jazz club type of makeup, that is my jam, and that's kind of what people pull out for holiday. Like, I'm more likely to fall in love with a bunch of holiday releases than I am to fall in love with a bunch of summer or spring releases. It totally makes sense, but I feel like there are even in the ones I've selected, as I always do, like 10 or 12 things that I really want to talk about. I'm not talking about like Too Faced this week. I'm not talking about I'm not even talking about like the Juvia's Nomad palette. Like, there are a bunch of things that I'm just kind of like, it's fine, but I don't want to waste my breath and waste your time just being like, it's fine. It's, you know, like I picked things that I feel like I have something to say about. And the main thing that I have to say about all of them at large is that I feel like there are really clear trends. There have been so many grungy rainbows issued, grungy, sparkly textured rainbows issued over just the past week, which is totally wild. There's also this kind of like magenta blue black type of world going on. I'm tempted to call it like the galaxy color scheme or color story, but that's just because the celestial color story, but that's just because the Dominique Cosmetics palette is called that, celestial something. And then there's another category for holiday releases, which is like the burgundy, blue, peach, sparkle category. That there are a bunch of releases that like are falling into that color story. So there are these really clear color trends that all kind of have something in common. They're all dark, kind of smoky. They're all definitely very kind of textured and shiny. So I tried to group them together. I'm gonna knock out all the grungy rainbows first, and I'm gonna move to some of the other ones. It might not really go down in that order, but we're gonna try. So the first thing that I pulled up, and this is just because it's the most recent release on Trend Mood, is the new release from Miss Fame. And I think everyone knows at this point, but I'm like a drag super fan. I think that drag is one of the most glorious things to exist in the contemporary cultural kind of shared concept of like human behavior. And it's most because of what not mostly, I would say it's partly because of what it contributes to our ever-evolving understanding of how fluid gender really is. Drag really, really illustrates that, the act of drag, the art form of drag. It illustrates that and celebrates it. It illustrates it in a really joyful and accessible way and in a welcoming way. So I worship drag for that reason, but it's also just the fashion, right? Like the celebration of dramatic fashion and the kind of unseriousness with which drag queens take themselves, that kind of pure love of life that issues from drag culture. All of that together is why I love it so much, among other things. I mean, this video isn't about drag. I'm not going to go on at length, but I do want to touch on it because Miss Fame is a very famous drag queen, and she's coming out with a makeup line. And formerly it was like, I think like some lip products and like some glitters in a pot, and nobody really took notice. But now she's put out an eyeshadow palette, and it's definitely a grungy rainbow, and it's all shimmer. I live. It's $50. I'm not gonna buy it, even though I consider it to be very attractive and cohesive. And I feel like she did a really good job. Like, it's balanced, it's beautiful, it's timely, it's very on trend, but it's also editorial. It's not boring, even though it's in line with what people are really into right now, and it's in line with what I'm really into right now. It's all of those things. But there's still no one thing about it that distinguishes it. Like, it doesn't have anything in it that makes me just gasp. And at this point, with the Cliona stained glass multi-chromes on the market, with the Rowan shadows newly entered my collection, like these really strange textural, unique formulas that are like never before seen, it's hard for an eyeshadow palette to make me do more than just look at it and go like, I like it, nice job, wow, good work. Like, it's hard beyond that. I guess the next step above that would be me going, I want it, which I did do for some things. We'll get there, but it's hard. Like, for an eyeshadow palette to do that for me, there has to be something about it that's a little bit more than just it's very perfectly done, which is how I feel about this release from Miss Fame. I'm glad it's a grungy rainbow. It's very, very beautiful. It's intriguing, it's on brand, but it's also very wearable. I think in the past, when drag queens have done collaborations with major brands, in many cases I've seen them release eyeshadow palettes that are perfect if you're a drag queen. I even feel like that a little bit about the Alyssa Edwards Anastasia Beverly Hills palette. It's those bright primary colors and then like the whites and the blacks and the creams that are necessary for creating looks that really show from the stage. So I feel like Alyssa Edwards put into her palette a bunch of colors that work really well to build an actual drag look. And I felt the same way about Aquaria's collaboration with, it was a drugstore brand, I can't remember what it was, but that palette would be really amazing to build looks if you're a drag queen. Miss Fame's palette, however, I feel like is designed for literal editorial work, like makeup for editorials for a magazine, which makes sense because Miss Fame is a high fashion queen and also a model, like a really, really high fashion, successful high fashion model. So it's more subtle and more wearable, I feel, than the other palettes that I've seen coming from drag queen collaborations. And I'm really attracted to that. I just think she hit it out of the park. I want it. In the abstract way that I want all makeup that's beautiful and well performing and suits my style, but it never even crossed my mind that I would buy this. I just think it's perfect. Natasha Denona. Y'all, grungy rainbow the house down boots. Natasha coming through with a grungy rainbow. The Metropolis palette. So at first glance, I thought that the Metropolis palette in this stunning, shiny peacock blue packaging, I thought that it was going to be another one of those huge, like the blue-brown palette, the blue-green, like those the first palettes that Natasha Denona released that were like gigantic and cost more than $200. That is, you know, really, really out of the question for a lot of people, even people who are willing to invest in luxury makeup or luxury products. They're just so out of control. I mean, they're really, the pricing and the pan size and all of that is really, I think, with makeup artists in mind. And so I was like, why, Natasha? Why are you releasing yet another one of those palettes when I feel like the feedback across the board has kind of been like, we love what you're doing, but we don't really love that format. But upon closer inspection, it's not that. She's made the pan sizes smaller, but there's a lot of shadows in there. So it's not like the Sunrise palette or whatever, where there were sort of the same number as the medium-sized palettes, but smaller pan sizes. I think it looks like there are more shadows than that, and more shadows than like the Safari palette and all of the gold palette, etc. But the pans are smaller. And on Trend Mood, it says it's in a midi size, the Metropolis palette in a never before seen midi size. So it's not mini, but it's not her normal big pan size, which is perfect. I mean, this is the direction in which I think we're all very relieved that Natasha Denona is going. And it's so on trend, but I feel like it's this trend, the grungy rainbow or the jewel tone, the sort of rich jumbled jewel toned rainbow is just hitting, but it's hitting from like 10 directions all at once. It's so interesting. I think that when someone starts a trend, I think of Modern Renaissance all the time, right? ABH was like way out ahead of the pack. They dropped Modern Renaissance. It went off like a bomb, and then everyone else followed suit for years. And that trend, we all rode that trend for years and years and years. But I feel like this, and maybe it's a shorter lived trend, you know, but it's like, no, it wasn't like one person did something or one brand did something that was really successful and then all the other brands copied it. It's like it came from within, like it came from us all, you know, it like came from our shared imagination. And I even feel like my inclination to build a grungy rainbow and like making videos about a grungy rainbow is part of that. I was totally joking when I was like, I'm the conductor of the train. I think what's really going on is that I was on the train, everyone got on the train, and we didn't realize that we were all getting on the same train. We just were kind of all feeling like, you know what I'm really into right now? I'm starting to kind of feel like this grungy jewel-toned rainbow, smoky, sultry, kind of slightly edgy thing. Like we were all starting to feel it. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, we were all feeling it all together, and all the brands are feeling it all together over the past several months, and they all made products. I'm going on a tangent about trends, I think, but I find it so fascinating when that happens. It's really fascinating when trends are set clearly by one or two people and then trickle down, but it's even more fascinating to me when trends seem like this sort of magical group consensus. And I feel like that's kind of going on with this color story right now. So it's stunning, and it's very on that trend. It's like on that train, and I think it will do very well. I feel a little bit, it's so new. I mean, I just saw it for the first time right before I sat down to film this video, and I was like, can't wait to talk about this. It's so new that I'm still sort of collecting my thoughts about it. I'm not going to buy this, and I don't even know if I would be motivated to, you know, ask for it as a gift for Christmas, for example, like I was with the gold palette, partly because I feel like the color story is so dynamic, it's so diverse that it makes it a little bit easier to dupe the vibes. Because with a gold palette, it's like one color idea, or, you know, a color idea with two main anchors, which is like the mustardy gold and then that greenish blue. And the whole palette is shades of that, different iterations, different textures of that. So that makes it harder to dupe the vibes, because it's about texture. It's about exploring every version of an idea. And so while one might already have similar colors in one's collection, one doesn't have the ability to kind of push at every angle of that one color idea, because that's what the palette is doing that's unique. So it's a little harder to dupe the vibes with something that's that much of a deep dive into one idea. But this is not really a deep dive into one idea. It's like an offering of a smattering of different kinds of colors that all work together. And so that's the kind of thing that one can easily dupe the vibes of, because you can pull that same smattering from what you already own and kind of build the looks that you would build with it. So I'm stunned by it. I mean, it's gorgeous. I love Natasha Denona's artistry, the way that she conceives of color, the way that she conceives of style in makeup. I really admire that, and this palette is no exception, but I feel less inclined to like want it than I have with some of her past palettes. Very beautiful though. I wanted to talk about it right up front. The other new thing that's at the top of trend mood today as I'm filming this is the Karl Lagerfeld / L'Oreal, or X L'Oreal. I don't know why people say that. X. L'Oreal X Karl Lagerfeld. It's like, when I first started watching YouTube and people started saying that, I was like, why do people not understand that it means times, like multiplication, and why are people saying X? And then very shortly after that, I was like, X, so-and-so X, so-and-so. I just like, there's something about the lingo that's very attractive to me. It's so silly and niche, and I like love / hate it / love it. So L'Oreal X Karl Lagerfeld, also, it's like a slightly more pastel grungy rainbow, and these beautiful shiny lip colors and highlighter, and it's just, I don't know what the quality of these shadows is going to be like. It's a brand new release, but I'm intrigued. And again, I'm intrigued in a kind of abstract way. Even though these are L'Oreal and so they're lower priced, I'm not like, it's not like one is on my list. But this burgundy, super shiny, textured looking lip, I'll put a picture of it up on the screen. This woman's lips literally look like they've been textured with glitter. But I think it might just be that it's super shiny and reflective, and that just intrigues me. I like it when we see something that looks like a little bit of a collage on the face, something different, something weird. I'm really into that. The highlighter looks like it could be a smash hit if it performs well. It's just really beautiful. I'm very drawn to these square pans all packed in together. If I were to ever create an eyeshadow palette, if I had the power to choose the format like this, it would be like this, would be square pans packed in together like a tiled floor. I love that. I really like it a lot better than the round pans with the negative space in between. So it's beautiful that they chose to do it that way. I'm just intrigued. I will follow the future career of the L'Oreal X Karl Lagerfeld collection with great interest. The Viseart Dark Neutrals, the Dark Edit. Grungy rainbow, look at it. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. If I were still a person who was waiting for Viseart to release the palette for me, this would be it. That was me for a long time. And I've heard Angelica say this too, so I'm not the only one. Viseart has intrigued me because everybody sings its praises. It's supposed to be the best ever, blah, 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 blah. But they never had a palette that was so me as to be worth the splurge. But this is so me. This is the one. It's got that sort of like faded chartreuse matte, and then it's got a brilliant kind of limey chartreuse metallic. It's got these rich but secondary and tertiary colored metallics, and then it's got these grungy mattes. Plus it has that matte sort of orangey coral, which if I had to pick a matte shadow that really, really gets me these days, that would be it. They just have checked so many boxes with this palette, and it's even not, how expensive is it? For some reason the price isn't up on Trend Mood, but it's not the, it's not one of their big plastic professional pan palettes. It's a little bit smaller than that, and so I think it might not be quite that expensive. I'm sure it's not cheap. You know what I mean? It's not like cheap. But this in another life, maybe even earlier this year, maybe even pre Ulla Johnson editorial ruffles, I might have been like, ooh, this is it. This is going to be my first Viseart purchase. And I might have sort of saved for it or thought about it. I could see this going on my Christmas wish list. Like, that's how much I like it. I really, really, really think that they've done a beautiful job. I don't want it with the passion of 1,000 burning suns. I just am sitting here like, Viseart, Yes. All right, let's talk about ColourPop X KathleenLights. This is how I feel about this palette. The Jaclyn Hill X Morphe palette got rich and like had a makeover and put on some highlighter. That's how I feel about this. I feel like it is like the Jaclyn Hill Morphe palette was born again as something more textured. So it's got everything that that palette had going for it. It's a rainbow, but it's grounded in neutrals. And that palette, I mean, say what you will about any of the parties involved, did spectacularly well. It's iconic. It's an iconic moment. The release of that palette was an iconic moment in the recent history of makeup. And so many of us, me included, bought it kind of in spite of ourselves. Not as a super fan of, not as a super fan of Morphe, not as a super fan of Jaclyn Hill. Just as I just saw it and I was like, that will improve my makeup collection many-fold. And it has. I've since depotted it. I'm talking still about the Jaclyn Hill X Morphe palette. I've since depotted it and I've decluttered some of the shadows, but the ones that I've kept, I still use all the time. And it does hold down the fort. Some of those singles hold down the fort for me color-wise. Especially before I started receiving some gifts from brands, and that diversified my eyeshadow collection significantly. Before that happened, when I was only dealing with things that I had purchased myself, the Jaclyn Hill palette had in it like my only kind of green, my only matte jade, my only sort of rich purpley blue, because I just am not a person who buys rainbow palettes. But I was willing to buy that one because it also had all of these sort of really, really glimmery, neutral browns and bronzes and peaches and the colors that I felt like were really, really me. And then the diversification of the rainbow colors was just an added bonus, but one that I really took advantage of and have continued to take advantage of with those shadows. So I just feel like there's that color story, the slightly oversized palette that provides a rainbow, a slightly grungy, gritty rainbow with lots of good shimmery, like oily shimmers, but is essentially grounded in neutrals. That was a smash hit success when that palette released. This is that again. This is the same thing, but I love the ColourPop formula 1,000 times more than the Morphe. All of them. Like the ColourPop mattes are my favorite mattes. The glitters, the pressed glitters, I love. The Super Shock shadows in the palette, I find that very intriguing. And the shimmer shadow formula, I think, is way better even. And the fact that they have duochromes. I mean, I just think ColourPop outperforms Morphe on every count for me when it comes to eyeshadow. So this to me is like a new and much, much, much improved, classier version of the Jaclyn Hill Morphe palette. That was my first thought when I saw the reveal. The price, I'm curious to know what people will say about the price. I haven't seen anyone, this has just released when I'm filming this. I haven't seen anyone talk about this on YouTube yet. And so I'm curious about whether people will think that the price is decent for this number of shadows. For eyeshadow, even for ColourPop eyeshadows, objectively, the price is appropriate for the number of eyeshadows. So if you're looking at like cost per gram or cost per eyeshadow, it's decent. But people don't really think about makeup that way, and nor should they, in my opinion. Well, you should, they should, make no mistake, they should, and you should do whatever you want, and you should think however you want. I'm not trying to tell you how to think. But I don't think about makeup that way, because it only makes sense to measure like cost per unit or cost per gram if you're going to use up all of the units and all of the grams. If it's something that's truly consumable. I mean, makeup is theoretically consumable, but in my life, I'm not consuming my eyeshadows down to the last drop. It's not a situation where I'm like buying one eyeshadow palette and using it up, and then buying one and using it up, the way that it is with concealer or brow products or something like that. So eyeshadow, I think I was saying makeup before, but I specifically mean eyeshadow. For eyeshadow, for me, cost per unit and cost per gram doesn't matter. So, and I think that's true for a lot of people, even specifically with ColourPop. I think that for a lot of people, the way that they think about it is like, that's a good price for a ColourPop palette. That's a good price for ColourPop, or that's a good price for an eyeshadow palette. People aren't really out here thinking about cost per gram when it comes to eyeshadow. Some people are, but I think a lot of people are going to be like $40 for a ColourPop palette. I don't care how pretty it is. I don't care that it's KathleenLights. I don't care that there's 30 shadows in there. That's too much money. I think we're going to hear a lot of that on YouTube in the coming weeks. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's my prediction. And I kind of felt that way when I saw the price. I was like, well, discount codes apply. Is this going to be included in the 20% off sales? Like, that's how I felt. I was like, really? Because full disclosure, I want this. Like, this is the kind of thing that I would put in my ColourPop cart, and then 5 months from now, when I place my like twice yearly ColourPop order, I might include it. But it better be on sale by then. And you know me, I'm not usually like a sale person. I'm not like, oh, I only buy things on sale. I tend to feel like if you wouldn't buy it full price, you shouldn't buy it on sale. I tend to really push back against the instinct for sales to like be a reason to buy something or a reason to justify buying something. So I'm not usually very price focused when it comes to makeup. I am very focused on quality over quantity. And for that reason, I tend not to quarrel too much with prices, because I'm like, if you like it, like if you're gonna love it so much that it's worth being one of your few purchases per month, I'm kind of talking to myself. Like, if you want it so much that it has earned some of your budget, then it should be okay that it's gonna eat up quarter of your budget or half of your budget. That's how I tend to chat with myself about makeup. But this, I have a suspicion that the price of this palette is going to be controversial. I will follow its future career with great interest. The last thing I'll say about this palette is that if someone came to me tomorrow and said, I'm just starting out with makeup, I want to be adventurous with color, I want to have sort of like something to start with, like a beginner palette, or I have a range that I can play with, what do you suggest? I would be like, so jaded, biatch. Like, this is what I would say. I would be like, this one, because it's got a lot to offer. All right, so those were the grungy rainbows, although I did include this NARS palette. I'm not going to talk about it for very long because I think I've talked a lot already. This is going to be a long video. But it's very pretty, and it's so interesting looking at this NARS palette. I'll put it up on the screen, but it's a colorful all shimmer palette from NARS, and it looks, something they've done to the picture, it looks textured in this really gratifying way. It's very beautiful, and it just reminded me of the way that NARS used to kind of get me, because I used to be like a real NARS girl, and they've really let me down. Like, my love of NARS has lost my loyalty. Let's just say that. But it's beautiful. I think it's beautiful. I think it's a collab. Yeah, it's a collab. It's very beautiful, and I think it's lovely. I don't want it. I don't want to buy it. It sort of is neutral to me in terms of like the effect that it would have on my life or like on my makeup collection. It's just not really, really for me, but it occupies an interesting place in the firmament of like all of these new releases, because it's sparkly, which is really in right now. It's like foregrounding holiday. It's got that shine. It's all shimmer, which is interesting. Like the Miss Fame palette, we're seeing a number of all shimmer palettes, but with slightly different textures of shimmer. I'm all about that life because I love all shimmer looks and all shimmer palettes. So I'm a little worried that it's not going to go well for the brands, because I know that not everyone loves that, but I love it. So I'm really into that. And, you know, it's not a super grungy rainbow, but it's definitely like a slightly secondary, tertiary. It's not a primary colored rainbow. It's not a rainbow the way that the new Melt palette is, or the Sugar Pill palette, or what's the other one? Oh, the Juvia's Place, the new Juvia's Place palette. It's not a rainbow like that. It's like this slightly off, this slant rainbow. So it just fits. I felt like it was interesting because it came up and I was like, oh, look, NARS is on the train too. Little did they know they were getting on the same train as everyone else, but they were. And I feel like it kind of bridges the grungy rainbow and this sort of like celestial black, saturated blue, magenta world that a couple of other palettes occupy, and that's what we're going to talk about next. So there's the Dominique Cosmetics palette and the Artist Couture palette, and I'll try to put them up. There's a picture where they're together from Trenmu, so I'll put that up on the screen right now. The Artist Couture palette looks like a mini of the Dominique Cosmetics palette. And I saw Samantha talking briefly about these, and I will say what she said, which is that I would never for a minute think that there was a copying going on here. I would never think that. I do not think that one copied the other. they came out at exactly the same time. I think that it's that trend thing. It's like these subterranean trends that people are tapping into from different locations and not knowing that we're all kind of thinking the same thing. I think that they got on the train together from different ends and like didn't know that they were both on the train, and then they created these two palettes that look very similar to each other. So they both look stunning. I've heard good things about the formula of both of these. I definitely don't want to buy them. Again, it's like eyeshadow. It's the thing I love to think and talk about the most, and it's the thing that I'm the least inclined to buy because I have so many beautiful palettes. I just decluttered my palettes. I have so many beautiful singles. But this color is in these palettes. I love that. I think this is a stunning pop color for a wardrobe, for a palette. And I think that this color story is cool. I think it's cool. I like the fact that it's grungy and bright, but not a rainbow. Like, I like that. I like that it has these really specific tones. I like that it's not primary, that teal, that magenta, those are all like mixed colors rather than being like really, really kind of clean, untainted colors. They're all tainted colors. That's another way to say it. It's all, I love that. I love that. So this is similarly, when these came out, I was like, yes, good work. Cool. Let's get it. But that didn't make me want to buy them. One thing I do really want though is like a shiny black eyeshadow, like a black with a lot of glimmers in it. Like, you know what I want? Sorry, I'm getting so excited about this that I just breathed in and was like, I want Rowan to come out with a black disco eye or a dark, dark brown, just like summer disco, like tons of creamy micas, like gritty, creamy textured, but black. Or even, I would even be happy with like a really dark navy. But what I really want is black. I want a disco eye in black. Rowan, are you listening? Nikki DeRoast, are you out there? Disco eye in black, please and thank you. All of the palettes that are coming out lately that have that in them, and the Dominique Cosmetics one has it. The Artist Couture doesn't. But the Dominique Cosmetics one has like a really, really deep shimmering black. And that is like calling to me right now. All of the palettes that have that kind of thing in them, I'm about that because I don't really have anything like that. And that brings me to the recent release that I not only want, but might actually buy. So you might have cottoned on to the fact that my do I want it videos or my will I buy it videos are pretty much all anti-hauls. Like I almost never am up here like, and this is the one I'm gonna buy, like, because I just don't look at new releases like that. I assume that I'm barely gonna buy anything almost all the time, and I'm particularly assuming it right now. So that's how I approach everything. I'm like, and so I'll be like cheering, I'll be like, yes, Miss Fame, like go grungy rainbow, Natasha Denona, like making a smaller and less expensive eyeshadow palette with a bunch of colors. I'll be like feeling all the feelings and like watching the new releases like a sports fan, but in a way that's completely disconnected from my decision making as a consumer or my impulse to buy. I like get all excited about it, but that doesn't cause me to want to buy it. And I think that I developed that, I don't want to call it an ability, but I developed that those pathways in my brain during my no-buy year, because I spent my no-buy year totally, solidly, completely having vowed that I wouldn't buy anything and sticking to that, but still following new makeup releases like a sports fan. So I spent a year like carving this groove into my brain in which I can do those two things at the same time. So it's very, very rare that I come on here in a video about new releases and I'm like, might buy it. It's the Natasha Denona Mini Gold palette, and it's for a few reasons. One is the price. Full disclosure, I have $30 left of my budget this month. I had saved $100 from August. I bought this blouse, which was over $200, even secondhand, right? It was that. I like did the thing. It's a whole thing. More to come on that, but I made my choice. Like this was going to be the one thing. But I also ended up buying a sweater at a secondhand shop what is going on right here? Oh, it's a ponytail, not a bun. Forgot what my hair was doing. Sorry, we're fine. I'm fine. Everyone's fine. When all is said and done, this is a bit of a tangent, but I have $30 left in my budget, and I'm keeping it that way because what if something happens, like I run out of, I don't know, night cream, or like I think I kind of need like an eyebrow product right now because I don't really have something, and my brows are trying to get a little patchy and I haven't dyed them again yet. So there's just a couple, like I like to reserve at least 30. Usually I like to have a little more than that, so I'm kind of down to the wire, but I like to have a little bit of breathing room with my budget just in case I need to replace something. So I have that, and I wasn't planning to spend it this month. We're only at the beginning of September. I only have $30 left in my budget for September, and I was planning to just hang on to it in case of emergency. And then I saw this and I was like, remember what I was just saying about a sparkly dark shadow? That's in here. And look at that green, and look at that matte kind of glowy olive. I couldn't have done it better myself. That's how I feel, because it also has this matte shade. I mean, if I were going to build look after look after look from this palette, it's got that matte kind of slightly taupey bone color that I would make a lot of use out of. And then it has a really stunning, sparkly, shiny, kind of creamy, mid-toned gold. That's the kind of shadow that I reach for constantly from the actual gold palette. So I just think it's impeccable. Whether I buy it or not, she knocked it out of the park, in my opinion. My instinct is to wait on this. Like, I know that when something makes me feel the way that this release is making me feel, the smartest thing that I can do is to wait it out. Wait out the initial burst of passion and then see what's left after that. Because that burst of passion, it always pops, it always fades. Whether you buy the thing or not, it always fades. So what I do is I wait it out. I wait until it pops and fades and is gone, and then I look at what's left in my feelings, and if what's left is strong enough of a motivator for me to buy the thing, then I'll wait a while more, and then I'll in some cases buy the thing, and if it's financially viable, you know. But with this, the price is so good for these mini palettes, and I kind of have also been waiting for her to release a mini palette that I really, really wanted, because they're so sweet. They're just so sweet. They're such sweet little babies. And this is it. This is, you know, kind of like the Viseart palette. Like, I've been sitting here twiddling my thumbs, and I'm like, when is she going to release a mini palette that makes me want to buy it? And I'm like, oh, now's the answer. She did it now. So I don't know what's going to happen. You know, I have $30 left in my budget, and this is only $25. So I could theoretically buy it this month. It could be my third purchase of the month. Or I could wait and just see how I feel a couple of months from now. I could put it on my Christmas wish list. Or maybe after the bubble pops, I won't want it at all. I do not think one needs the mini gold palette to make the looks that one would be able to achieve with the mini gold palette. And once I drive that deeper into my skull by playing around with similar eyeshadows, I might be able to pass it up. That might be reason enough for me not to buy it. But in this case, it's not just about the exact looks that I would create with it. It's about the mystique of Natasha Denona, the fact that I've been wondering when she would create a mini palette that I wanted, the fact that the price is so relatively low compared to her other palettes, the fact that I have the full-size gold palette, and it would be fun to add this in because it's kind of like an expansion pack for that full-size gold palette. There's just all of these other factors, none of which are really like super perfect valid reasons to buy it, you know. But if I can go in with my eyes open, knowing what all of the factors are, and still believing that I'll get a ton of joy out of buying and using it, which is highly likely, then all of that is okay with me. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. I feel like I've been talking about it literally for an hour, and it's time to move on. Needless to say, it's beautiful. It's one of the only things that's been released this year that I've literally instantly wanted to buy with my budget. I did want to briefly touch on the super weird pictures of the ColourPop Ulta exclusive Truly Madly Deeply palette, because when it first came up on Trendmood, I'll put up the first picture. I was like, wow, ColourPop, wow. It looks so stunning. This picture, it looks like that kind of heavenly garden. Like, it has something a little bit in common with the kind of rusty gold of the Jackie Aina palette. Like, it just looks, wow, it's just stunning. Like, this color story I was just like, wow, can't wait to see swatches. And then I saw swatches. I'm gonna put up the swatches, the arm swatches right now, and it's just like a warm pink and red and gold palette with a bunch of pressed glitters that I already have. What? Like, it look in the first picture, it looks like it kind of, it looks sort of like grungy bronzy, mustardy even, but it's just the lighting. The actual palette is boring the house down boots. To me, I know a lot of people get a ton of use out of this, and that's fine. But it was just really interesting. It was so on my radar after that first picture. And then I saw this picture, and then I was like, and now it's off my radar. We're done. Brief touch. Actually, no, I'm going to skip talking about the rainbow. Another trend. So I'm not going to skip talking about it. I'm just not going to give my opinion extensively the way that I have been in this like 5-hour video. I was talking about like the groups of trends that have been coming out. So there's like the grungy rainbow. There's the like magenta, pop of magenta and teal set in a sparkly black background type of group. And then there's this like matte, intense rainbow palette thing being released, which I feel like is a little bit old news. Like, it seems like it's not timely, but the reason it seems like a trend is that both Melt and Juvia's Place are doing it. There are these two palettes, and Sugar Pill, I guess, if you look at like the recent release of that mini Sugar Pill palette, there are these like super intense, pure matte rainbow palettes coming out. I mean, I know the Juvia's Place has a couple of shimmers in it, but for all intents and purposes, you know, it's the same idea. And so it's just interesting to note that there's like another train going by in another direction that I'm not on, but there's a couple people on it. There's a bunch of people on it. Oh, okay. So now we're moving into the last little category I have on which to speak, which is it's like the kind of holiday color scheme that has like a shiny burgundy and a shiny blue and a shiny gold and a shiny dirty silver and a shiny peach. You know what I'm talking about? You know, that kind of like, it's like, this year we're decorating our tree. I'm speaking in like I'm like a wealthy person who decorates their tree differently every year. This year we're decorating our tree with like the blue and burgundy color scheme instead of silver and green like we did last year. You know, I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's like one of the ways in which holiday colors can manifest. And I think that the epitome of it is the Bobbi Brown sneak peek, which is exactly what I just said. It has like these shiny burgundy, blue, peach, sort of like a silvery gold and like a deeper matte burgundy. And it's in that really amazing textured packaging. It's just so beautiful. But I think that the thing that makes it seem super beautiful to me is that it kind of pulls those like holiday, gosh, I even want to say kind of like a sophisticated, moneyed holiday color scheme heartstrings. Like, it just makes me feel feelings about mall decorations around holiday time. And that's compelling. There's a nostalgia factor to this color scheme and the textures of it. But it's also very beautiful and promises to perform well. And the packaging, the limited edition packaging, is compelling. And it's a very pretty release. And there are like these glittery lipsticks. It's just a very pretty release that I am not going to buy, but it's pretty. And I feel similarly, weirdly, about the Pat McGrath release of these mini palettes. It's like she's following in Natasha Denona's footsteps with the much less expensive mini palettes and much less expensive packaging. But Pat McGrath, the thing that I want to try from her are what they call the special shades. In the big palettes, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the big palettes, there are always 4 shades on the end that are the special shades. The really, really incredible, super multi-iridescent toppers / lid shades. I mean, those ones that promise to be really different and mind-blowing. I have too many eyeshadows to be very invested in trying Pat McGrath's regular metallic formula or her mattes. If I'm going to go out and get some new eyeshadow and try Pat McGrath's eyeshadow for the first time, it's going to be those special shades. And it doesn't look like these little mini palettes have any of the special shades. And I kind of think she's doing it on purpose. Also, she released, remember, all of those mini, like individual, you could buy like a single shadow from her. they released like a whole range of them, and it was like, oh my god, now you can try her formula, just buy one individual shadow. We're so lucky, like you can just try one, you have to buy a whole mothership palette. But none of them were the special shades. I feel like she's holding out on us, like she's trying to make it so that, I mean, I say she, but you know what I mean, it's like the Pat McGrath like empire. I think it's a thing where it's like, if you want that pinnacle, that really, really special quality, if you want to try a special shade, you have to buy a mothership palette. It seems like that's what's happening. And I don't doubt that the quality of these little palettes is amazing, but I am not gonna, I don't know. I feel like the Natasha Denona Mini Gold palette has all of her textures in it. It has that really creamy, sparkly gold in the middle. It has that sort of duochromy green, olive green. It has the rich creamy mattes. Like there's textural diversity in the mini. And these look like they're just 5 metallics in each one of these 2 palettes. And they look beautiful, and that neutral one is very beautiful. And it also has that sort of sophisticated burgundy holiday vibe going on. And even the colorful one has like a sophisticated, colorful holiday vibe going on. They look very, very beautiful. I need more of a reason. If there were special shades in here, that would be a reason to want these. But as they are, I'm just like, nice, very pretty, cool, good. There's only one more thing on which I wanted to speak, and it's not something that fits into like the little color. It's not on any of the trains. And it's weird for me. It's the Chantecaille release. For some reason, I feel like this has been getting more attention on YouTube than Chantecaille usually gets, because Chantecaille is usually really, really contained in the like uber luxury channels. I mean, I'll see Tati and Michelle Wong talking about Chantecaille, and that's kind of it. But this one, which is the release, the luminescent eyeshadows that have little animals on them, and they are uber luxury. It's a single eyeshadow for $52. But I saw Mariah Leonard. I know I should have Mariah Leonard. The camera just cut off when I was confessing my girl crush on Mariah Leonard, which is probably a good thing. I just think her aesthetic is so impeccable. She used this giraffe shadow all over her lids in a look recently, and it's the color, it's got that it's like that ruddy, deep, sultry brown that has like a warm undertone that comes through, and it just looks so simultaneously casual but sophisticated. It's just, to me, there's something really spot on about that. And even though it's just a brown, it's just a shimmery brown, you don't see it everywhere. It's hard to find. It's just one of these little things I'm always looking for. So that giraffe color in particular, and the quality of the shine that it has, it's like a little unicorn that I'm always looking for. The giraffe is a unicorn, and I totally want it. I saw actually Michelle talking about them, and then I saw Mariah demonstrating that one, and I was like, I want that $52 giraffe eyeshadow from Chantecaille, but I'm not gonna buy it. I mean, like, that is not my life, right? It's not really what I'm doing. It's definitely not what I'm doing right now with my budget. And it's probably not also what I'm gonna be doing with my budget in the future, because of all the things to spend $52 on, of all of the fewer, nicer things, eyeshadow is kind of not it, sis. But I wanted to talk about it because I think one of the things that's interesting to do in these videos is to talk about the things that are on my radar. I kind of like do that at the end. Like last time I talked about Make Beauty and Flesh Beauty being suddenly on my radar when they hadn't been before. But I was like, I kind of want them, and I'm probably not gonna buy anything from them, which I didn't. That's how I feel about this. I'm like, it's weird, it's out of the blue, it's these luxury single eyeshadows that some people are talking about, but not really. It's not the kind of thing that most people are talking about in their new releases videos, but it's something that I've been thinking about. It's something that stood out to me as remarkable of the releases over the past couple of weeks. All right, that's it. It's time for me to go. I always feel like I'm losing my voice at the end of these videos because I have a lot to say. I always have a lot to say about new releases. And I've been loving filming these videos more regularly because it really stimulates my creativity, thinking about this stuff. Like, why do we like what we like? Why are we drawn to what we're drawn to? Why do I like a grungy rainbow? Why do I like a super intense glitter? Like, why do we like what we like? What does it say about us? And I like assessing these works of creativity, which in many cases a palette is. It's like somebody had a vision, somebody tried to execute that vision, and the people who are putting these palettes together, these releases, they're balancing what they love, what they think is attractive, with what they think will sell, with price and value and materials, and trying to make it all work together. It's just an interesting economic and artistic puzzle, and it's so fun to talk about, especially because I am safe here. I am safe behind the pain of a budget that I've already almost completely spent. So it's really mostly just like an intellectual exercise, with the possible exception of the Natasha Denona Mini Gold palette, which might be snatching a bit of my wig this month. All right, I said that was it, and then I kept talking about nonsense for like 5 more minutes. I'm leaving. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. And don't forget to take extra good care of yourself this week so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.